Welcome, SENS Talk.
Russell winds in, feeds it back across the track, and scores! Brady Tkachuk makes it 2-0. Paul Giroux, in alone, scores!
Tim Stutzel across, Tkachuk score! The captain, Brady Tkachuk, buries it with 1:18 to go.
See you later. Go, SENS, go. Welcome to SENS Talk. My name is Brandon Plant, and I am your host. I got a class very early in the morning. I got to wake up in literally 6 hours. I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. But I had to make a video. It's yet another third period collapse for the Ottawa Senators where they had the lead going into the third period of play. Somehow Calgary scored 4 straight, and they win this one 6-3. They scored 4 straight goals in the third period of play. I don't even know what to say anymore. What do you say? I mean, this team is so fragile, and the losing culture is so ingrained in their soul at this point that they, you're not going to turn around the team like that with Jacques Martin. This is not his fault. He's been here for not even a month. But on the topic of coaching, the Ottawa Senators have to nail their next head coach. I see the Ottawa Senators in a situation just kind of like the Carolina Hurricanes a couple years ago. They had the talent, they had a lot of hype around them, but they couldn't put it together. For some reason, they just couldn't put it together. And for multiple years in a row, the Carolina Hurricanes were a team that a lot of, pundits, fans, commentators, whatever, around the league would say were a team to be on the lookout for, and then year after year, they would disappoint. Who does that remind you of? Of course, your Ottawa Senators. If they nail this coach, and bring in the right guy, I have faith that this team will turn it around. There's too much talent on this team. Way too much talent throughout this lineup to be playing this poorly and so consistently inconsistent. It makes no sense. A guy like Craig Berube won the Cup a few years ago, can instill a proper defensive type of mindset in this team, can, really hold these players accountable. And I think a guy like that can really turn things around and reset the culture in this locker room, just like he did in St. Louis. Because once again, the culture with the Ottawa Senators right now, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. When you're consistently going into the third period and giving up the lead and just absolutely getting outworked with the lead in the third period of play. I mean, how many teams, even the worst teams in the National Hockey League, with the lead going to the third period of play better than the Ottawa Senators? I mean, it feels like a given for some reason that the Ottawa Senators are going to lose the game when they have the lead going to the third period of play. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And I mean, Ottawa was playing well for the first 40 minutes. We got the first power play goal in 4 games. Brady Tkachuk, El Capitano, with a big goal there in the second period of play. A nice pass from Claude Giroux from just behind the net. You had Dominic Kubalik getting on a goal there, chipping in with the goal, to make it 2-1 in the first period of play with a couple seconds left. So Ottawa got that goal from Kubi-Dooby-Doo with 2 seconds left in the first period of play, and they took the lead after Calgary responded 40 seconds after Ottawa opened the game with a goal. Calgary responded right away. I think it was Connor Zary, that got that goal. Ottawa got a massive goal with a couple seconds left, so it looks like the momentum is back their way. And then just like the third period, they start the second period with the lead, and they give up the lead within 5 minutes. This team just has so many issues, and I'm no hockey expert. I'm certainly not a guy that could be an NHL coach, obviously. But it's pretty obvious for just any human being that this team has such a mental problem. They're so fragile. I can only imagine, it pains me to watch this team consistently lose. I can only imagine the mental state of that locker room right now. And I cannot really begin to say how they can fix that. But you can obviously see that this team has a real foundational mental issue. They're just unable to play with the lead. They play scared with the lead. And again, when you do that, you're going to lose, and that's what always happens with the Ottawa Senators. They're now 4-11-0 on the road this year, 0-4 on the road trip, and 14-22-0 in total on the season. And I was mentioning this on Twitter just as the game was winding down. And we've mentioned this in the last video on Saturday after the loss against Edmonton. I mentioned how, yeah, of course that dropped. Of course the banner dropped behind me. It always does every video, just like the SENS season, right down the drain. But back to my main point, as I mentioned in my Edmonton recap on Saturday. If we're going to make a trade, it has to be for two reasons. One, to free up cap space, to extend guys like Jacob Chikrin or Shane Pinto. So to move out some cap, to free up some cap. Or two, to bring in somebody for the long-term future of this team. This shouldn't be a short-term move that the Ottawa Senators make. And I'll make a video on this very, very soon, discussing the trade rumors and whatnot. But if the Ottawa Senators are going to make a move to shake things up, they better not do something just for this year. Once again, 14-22-0, you're going to need more than a hamburger run to come back and claw your way back into the playoff race. So if you're going to make a move, it has to be a long-term move. And we'll see what they do with that. I mean, once again, I don't blame the GM and the Ottawa Senators for wanting to make a move. It's inexcusable and unexplainable as to why this team with all the talent just can't win and can't hold a lead and can't play with the lead. It makes no sense to me. And that's, once again, I'll keep on beating this drum, why they need to nail this new coach and the new hiring. Because, once again, just like the Carolina Hurricanes and, a couple other teams out there that I can name, just like the St. Louis Blues, bring up Craig Berube again. If they hire the right guy, they can really turn around this entire program. They need a total program rejuvenation. That's what this team needs, and if they get the right coach, I have ultimate faith that this core can turn it around. I think guys like Kachuk and Stützle are playing injured. I mean, Stützle is basically a point-per-game player right now, but, at the same time, while he's a point-per-game player, he doesn't seem as impactful as he could be. Same with Kachuk. I think both are playing with injuries, and I think both can play better when healthy, and I think that's a big reason why. Once again, they have to be playing with injuries. I mean, they just don't look the same. There's no other explanation, right? And, I think, obviously, if they're healthy, they'll play better. But just with a new coach, I think that will instill, especially in a guy like Kachuk, who really responds to stuff like that as the leader of the team, of course. I think a guy like Kachuk is going to drag this team to victory. And if he buys into what the coach is saying, the new coach and the new culture, if Kachuk gets behind it, this whole team will get behind it. So, Kachuk, and I'll bring this up. I've seen people talk about trading Kachuk. It's so stupid. Or same thing with Stützle. You're not going to get another Tim Stützle. You're not going to get another Brady Kachuk. Teams around the National Hockey League would kill to have a guy like Brady Kachuk as your captain. This is a guy that will drag your team to victory. And, with a new coach, if he buys in, the whole team will buy in. And I don't see why he wouldn't buy in. So, I'm not worried about the core. I will be worried about the core, though, if they hire a new coach and continue to play this poorly. And a couple other things I want to mention. Just some positives. Once again, Brady Kachuk, as I mentioned already, first power play goal for the Ottawa Senators in 4 games. He got that goal in the second period of play to give Ottawa the 3-2 lead with about 8 minutes left in the second period of play. This is when we saw Tim Stützle drop down in the second power play and Claude Giroux promoted to the first power play wave. And we also saw Mark Kaslick on the second power play wave. So Ottawa is really tinkering with their power play. It worked tonight, of course, as they got 1 goal on their 3 opportunities. So a 33% rate there. It's a good start at least. Hopefully they can build off of that. I thought Stützle looked a little more energized on that second wave as well. It's a bit of a wake-up call for a guy like Timmy Stu to be dropped down to the second wave, and hopefully that accountability that the coaches are putting on him will wake him up a bit as well. But yeah, once again, just to Kachuk and Stützle, I think they got to be playing injured. Let me know what you think down below, because while they are producing points, they just don't seem as impactful. And I don't know if that's just the entire team kind of being checked out. That could be what it is. But I choose to believe a guy like Kachuk is never checked out. He's never checked out. So he's got to be dealing with an injury. And a guy like Stützle is just too talented to be looking invisible at times. So yeah, besides that, once again, I'll look at the stats here. I kind of already mentioned it, but Korpisalo, .857 save percentage, 35 shots against, 30 saves. A couple of those goals you want to save, like I've already mentioned. But, this team, there's so many little issues. And, for some reason, they just can't play consistent. And, we saw Josh Norris, by the way, last thing I'll mention. He went down with an injury, left the game a little early, late in the third period, but I'm looking at the time on ice right now, and him and Tkachuk, I mean, Tkachuk played just around 17 minutes. Norris just played one more shift than really Greg at 16:49, Greg at 16:12. I mean, the minutes tonight were pretty even on the forward core. And I think that says a lot about how the coaching staff right now views this forward core. Pretty even overall, which is not great because your top 6 and your bottom 6 are playing similar minutes. That's never a good sign right now. Because it's not like the Sens are firing on all cylinders and they can play an even game and roll 4 lines. It's more like players are being held back because they're not playing well enough whatsoever. Josh Norris is one of those guys, by the way. Had a terrible penalty there in the third period of play. Undisciplined penalty where he flipped it out of the ice. Trying to chip it off the boards, of course, but of course flipped it over the boards. He's not looked great this year. Let's just be honest. Josh Norris has not looked good, and I don't think he's even dealing with an injury. He's got some goals, sure, but for a guy making nearly $8 million through the middle of the ice, you want to have more of an impact there, and he's just yet another player who just for some reason doesn't seem to be as impactful as he previously has been. Now with that, I'm not going to crack this out. I mean, once again, I got class tomorrow morning. I got to wake up in 6 hours. I shouldn't have done this video, but here we are. I'm not going to drink on a weeknight, obviously. But maybe soon we're going to be forced to crack this open because it's inexcusable and unexplainable as to why the Ottawa Senators just cannot hold a lead and are so fragile. It's unbelievable, and we'll see what they can do. Hopefully they can avoid getting swept again on the road when they take on the Buffalo Sabres, who have also been terrible this year, this Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So we'll see what they do there. But besides that, thank you all for watching. I appreciate your support. I'll see you in the next video. Go Sens, go.